Author background. Ralph Waldo Trine, 1866–1958, was a prominent author in the field of positive thinking and New Thought philosophy. His writings are known for their spiritual and psychological approach, emphasizing the relationship between the mind, well-being, and reality. Detailed summary. Introduction. The Higher Powers of Mind and Spirit explores how mental and spiritual faculties influence our lives and well-being. Trine argues that understanding and applying spiritual and mental principles can transform both our personal and collective reality. 1. The Powers of the Mind. Trine begins by explaining that the human mind possesses much greater abilities than most people realize. He asserts that our thoughts are a powerful force that can shape our reality. According to him, positive thinking, mental focus, and self-belief can have profound effects on our lives. 2. The influence of thought on reality. The author elaborates on the idea that the quality of our thoughts determines our life experience. By changing our thoughts and cultivating positive thinking, we can alter our situation. Trine insists that thought is creative and that we have the power to attract into our lives what we believe and imagine. 3. The Power of Higher Consciousness. Trine discusses the concept of higher spiritual consciousness, which he views as a connection to a divine intelligence or universal force. This higher consciousness allows access to higher levels of understanding and wisdom. He encourages readers to develop their intuition and connect with this deeper source of knowledge. 4. Harmony with universal laws. The author describes how living in harmony with universal laws can lead to a more balanced and fulfilling life. He presents these laws as natural principles governing life and prosperity. By aligning our actions and thoughts with these laws, we can achieve greater harmony in our lives. 5. Personal transformation. Trine emphasizes that personal transformation starts with inner change. To create positive external changes, one must first transform the mind and attitude. He encourages readers to work on themselves, develop constructive mental habits, and free themselves from limiting beliefs. 6. The impact of spirituality on daily life. He also explores how spiritual principles can be applied in daily life to improve relationships, career, and health. Trine offers practical advice on cultivating an attitude of gratitude, compassion, and generosity, and how these attitudes can enrich our lives. Conclusion. In his conclusion, Trine reaffirms that the powers of the mind and spirit are the keys to personal achievement and well-being. He encourages readers to become aware of their own potential, develop their minds, and live in accordance with spiritual principles to create a richer and more fulfilling life. The Higher Powers of Mind and Spirit is a work that inspires readers to explore the unlimited potential of the mind and apply spiritual principles to enhance their lives. Trine offers an optimistic and practical view of how thought and spirituality can interact to transform personal reality. Forward. We are all dwellers in two kingdoms, the inner kingdom, the kingdom of the mind and spirit, and the outer kingdom, that of the body and the physical universe about us. In the former, the kingdom of the unseen, lie the silent, subtle forces that are continually determining, and with exact precision, the conditions of the latter. To strike the right balance in life is one of the supreme essentials of all successful living. We must work, for we must have bread. We require other things than bread. They are not only valuable, comfortable, but necessary. It is a dumb, stolid being, however, who does not realize that life consists of more than these. They spell mere existence, not abundance, fullness of life. We can become so absorbed in making a living that we have no time for living. To be capable and efficient in one's work is a splendid thing, but efficiency can be made a great mechanical device that robs life of far more than it returns it. A nation can become so possessed, and even obsessed, with the idea of power and grandeur through efficiency and organization, that it becomes a great machine and robs its people of the finer fruits of life that spring from a wisely subordinated and coordinated individuality. Here again it is the wise balance that determines all. Our prevailing thoughts and emotions determine, and with absolute accuracy, the prevailing conditions of our outward, material life, and likewise the prevailing conditions of our bodily life. Would we have any conditions different in the latter, we must then make the necessary changes in the former. The silent, subtle forces of mind and spirit, ceaselessly at work, are continually molding these outward and these bodily conditions. He makes a fundamental error who thinks that these are mere sentimental things in life, vague and intangible. There are, as great numbers are now realizing, the great and elemental things in life, the only things that in the end really count. The normal man or woman can never find real and abiding satisfaction in the mere possessions, the mere accessories of life. There is an eternal something within that forbids it. That is the reason why, Of late years, so many of our big men of affairs, so many in various public walks in life, likewise many women of splendid equipment and with large possessions, have been and are turning so eagerly to the very things we are considering. To be a mere huckster, many of our big men are finding, cannot bring satisfaction, even though his operations run into millions in the year. And happy is the young man or the young woman who, while the bulk of life still lies ahead, realizes that it is the things of the mind and the spirit, the fundamental things in life, that really count, that here lie the forces that are to be understood and to be used in molding the everyday conditions and affairs of life, that the springs of life are all from within, that is the inner so always and inevitably will be the outer. To present certain facts that may be conducive to the realization of this more abundant life is the author's purpose and plan. R. W. T. Sunnybray Farm, Croton-on-Hudson, New York. The silent, subtle building forces of mind and spirit. There are moments in the lives of all of us when we catch glimpses of a life, our life, that is infinitely beyond the life we are now living. We realize that we are living below our possibilities. We long for the realization of the life that we feel should be. Instinctively we perceive that there are within us powers and forces that we are making but inadequate use of, and others that we are scarcely using at all. Practical metaphysics, a more simplified and concrete psychology, well-known laws of mental and spiritual science, confirm us in this conclusion. Our own William James, he who so splendidly related psychology, philosophy, and even religion, to life in a supreme degree, honored his calling and did a tremendous service for all mankind, when he so clearly developed the fact that we have within us powers and forces that we are making all too little use of, that we have within us great reservoirs of power that we have as yet scarcely tapped. The men and the women who are awake to these inner helps, these directing, molding, and sustaining powers and forces that belong to the realm of mind and spirit, are never to be found among those who ask, is life worth the living? For them life has been multiplied 2, 10, 100-fold. It is not ordinarily because we are not interested in these things, for instinctively we feel them of value, and furthermore our observations and experiences confirm us in this thought. The pressing cares of the everyday life, in the great bulk of cases, the bread and butter problem of life, which is after all the problem of 99 out of every 100, all seem to conspire to keep us from giving the time and attention to them that we feel we should give them. But we lose thereby tremendous helps to the daily living. Through the body and its avenues of sense, we are intimately related to the physical universe about us. Through the soul and spirit we are related to the infinite power that is the animating, the sustaining force, the life force, of all objective material forms. It is through the medium of the mind that we are able consciously to relate the two. Through it we are able to realize the laws that underlie the workings of the spirit, and to open ourselves that they may become the dominating forces of our lives. There is a divine current that will bear us with peace and safety on its bosom if we are wise and diligent enough to find it and go with it. Battling against the current is always hard and uncertain. Going with the current lightens the labors of the journey. Instead of being continually uncertain and even exhausted in the mere efforts of getting through, we have time for the enjoyments along the way, as well as the ability to call a word of cheer or to lend a hand to the neighbor, also on the way. The natural, normal life is by a law divine under the guidance of the Spirit. It is only when we fail to seek and to follow this guidance, or when we deliberately take ourselves from under its influence, that uncertainties arise, legitimate longings go unfulfilled, and that violated laws bring their penalties. It is well that we remember always that violated law carries with it its own penalty. The Supreme Intelligence, God, if you please, does not punish. He works through the channel of great immutable systems of law. It is ours to find these laws. That is what mind, intelligence, is for. Knowing them we can then obey them and reap the beneficent results that are always a part of their fulfillment, knowingly or unknowingly, intentionally or unintentionally. We can fail to observe them, we can violate them, and suffer the results, or even be broken by them. Life is not so complex if we do not so continually persist in making it so. Supreme intelligence, creative power works only through law. Science and religion are but different approaches to our understanding of the law. When both are real, they supplement one another, and their findings are identical. The old Hebrew prophets, through the channel of the Spirit, perceived and enunciated some wonderful laws of the natural and normal life, that are now being confirmed by well-established laws of mental and spiritual science, and that are now producing these identical results in the lives of great numbers among us today, when they said, "And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand, and when ye turn to the left." And again, "The Lord is with you, while ye be with him, and if ye seek him, he will be found." of you, but if ye forsake him, he will forsake you. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusteth in thee. The Lord in the midst of thee is mighty. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Thou shalt be in league with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with thee. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Now these formulations all mean something of a very definite nature. Or, they mean nothing at all. If they are actual expressions of fact, they are governed by certain definite and immutable laws. These men gave us, however, no knowledge of the laws underlying the workings of these inner forces and powers. They perhaps had no such knowledge themselves. They were intuitive perceptions of truth on their part. The scientific spirit of this, our age, was entirely unknown to them. The growth of the race in the meantime, the development of the scientific spirit in the pursuit and the finding of truth, makes us infinitely beyond them in some things, while in others they were far ahead of us. But this fact remains, and this is the important fact. If these things were actual facts in the lives of these early Hebrew prophets, they are then actual facts in our lives right now, today, or, if not actual facts, then they are facts that still lie in the realm of the potential, only waiting to be brought into the realm of the actual. These were not unusual men in the sense that the infinite power, God, if you please, could or did speak to them alone. They are types, they are examples of how any man or any woman, through desire and through will, can open himself or herself to the leadings of divine wisdom, and have actualized in his or her life an ever-growing sense of divine power. For truly God is the same yesterday, and today, and forever. His laws are unchanging as well as immutable. None of these men taught, then, how to recognize the divine voice within, nor how to become continually growing embodiments of the divine power. They gave us perhaps, though, all they were able to give. Then came Jesus, the successor of this long line of illustrious Hebrew prophets, with a greater aptitude for the things of the Spirit, the supreme embodiment of divine realization and revelation. With a greater knowledge of truth than they, he did greater things than they. He not only did these works, but he showed how he did them. He not only revealed the way, but so earnestly and so diligently he implored his hearers to follow the way. He makes known the secret of his insight and his power. The words that I speak unto you I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Again, I can of my own self do nothing. And he then speaks of his purpose, his aim: I am come that ye might have life, and that ye might have it more abundantly. A little later he adds, the works that I do, ye shall do also. Now again, these things mean something of a very definite nature, or they mean nothing at all. The works done, the results achieved by Jesus' own immediate disciples and followers, and in turn their followers, as well as in the early church for close to 200 years after his time, all attest the truth of his teaching and demonstrate unmistakably the results that follow. Down through the intervening centuries, the teachings, the lives and the works of various seers, sages, and mystics, within the church and out of the church, have likewise attested the truth of his teachings. The bulk of the Christian world, however, since the 3rd century, has been so concerned with various theories and teachings concerning Jesus, that it has missed almost completely the real vital and vitalizing teachings of Jesus. We have not been taught primarily to follow his injunctions, and to apply the truths that he revealed to the problems of our everyday living. Within the last 20 years or a little more, however, there has been a great going back directly to the teachings of Jesus, and a determination to prove their truth and to make effective their assurances. Also various laws in the realm of mental and spiritual science have become clearly established and clearly formulated, that confirm all his fundamental teachings. There are now definite and well-defined laws in relation to thought as a force, and the methods as to how it determines our material and bodily conditions. There are now certain well-defined laws pertaining to the subconscious mind, its ceaseless building activities, how it always takes its direction from the active, thinking mind, and how through this channel we may connect ourselves with reservoirs of power, so to speak, in an intelligent and effective manner. There are now well-understood laws underlying mental suggestion, whereby it can be made a tremendous source of power in our own lives, and can likewise be made an effective agency in arousing the motive powers of another for his or her healing, habit-forming, Character building. There are likewise well-established facts not only as to the value, but the absolute need of periods of meditation and quiet, alone with the source of our being, stilling the outer bodily senses, and fulfilling the conditions whereby the voice of the Spirit can speak to us and through us, and the power of the Spirit can manifest in and through us. A nation is great only as its people are great. Its people are great in the degree that they strike the balance between the life of the mind and the spirit, all the finer forces and emotions of life, and their outer business organization and activities. When the latter become excessive, when they grow at the expense of the former, then the inevitable decay sets in. That spells the doom of that nation, and its time is told off in exactly the same manner, and under the same law, as has that of all the other nations before it that sought to reverse the divine order of life. The human soul and its welfare is the highest business that any state can give its attention to. To recognize or to fail to recognize the value of the human soul in other nations, determines its real greatness and grandeur, or its self-complacent but essential vacuity. It is possible for a nation, through subtle delusions, to get such an attack of the big head that it bends over backwards, and it is liable, in this exposed position, to get a thrust in its vitals. To be carried too far along the road of efficiency, big business, expansion, world power, domination, at the expense of the great spiritual verities, the fundamental humanities of national life, that make for the real life and welfare of its people, and that give also its true and just relations with other nations and their people, is both dangerous and in the end suicidal. It can end in nothing but loss and eventual disaster. A silent revolution of thought is taking place in the minds of the people of all nations at this time, and will continue for some years to come. A stock-taking period in which tremendous revaluations are underway, is on. It is becoming clear-cut and decisive. 2. Soul, mind, body, the subconscious mind that interrelates them. There is a notable twofold characteristic of this our age, we might almost say, of this our generation. It is on the one hand a tremendously far-reaching interest in the deeper spiritual realities of life, in the things of the mind and the spirit. On the other hand, there is a materialism that is apparent to all, likewise far-reaching. We are witnessing the two moving along, apparently at least, side by side. There are those who believe that out of the latter the former is arising, that we are witnessing another great step forward on the part of the human race, a new era or age, so to speak. There are many things that would indicate this to be a fact. The fact that the material alone does not satisfy, and that from the very constitution of the human mind and soul, it cannot satisfy, may be a fundamental reason for this. It may be also that as we are apprehending, to a degree never equaled in the world's history, the finer forces in nature, and are using them in a very practical and useful way in the affairs and the activities of the daily life, we are also and perhaps in a more pronounced degree, realizing, understanding, and using the finer, the higher insights and forces, and therefore powers, of mind, of spirit, and of body. I think there is a twofold reason for this widespread and rapidly increasing interest. A new psychology, or perhaps it were better to say, some new and more fully established laws of psychology, pertaining to the realm of the subconscious mind, its nature, and its peculiar activities and powers, has brought us another agency in life of tremendous significance and of far-reaching practical use. Another reason is that the revelation and the religion of Jesus the Christ is witnessing a new birth, as it were. We are finding at last an entirely new content in his teachings, as well as in his life. We are dropping our interest in those phases of a Christianity that he probably never taught, and that we have many reasons now to believe he never even thought, things that were added long years after his time. We are conscious, however, as never before, that wonderful revelation, those wonderful teachings, and above all that wonderful life, have a content that does, inspire, lift up, and make more effective, more powerful, more successful, and more happy, the life of every man and every woman who will accept, who will appropriate, who will live his teachings. Look at it, however we will, this it is that accounts for the vast number of earnest, thoughtful, forward-looking men and women who are passing over, and in many cases are passing from, traditional Christianity, and who either of their own initiative, or under other leadership, are going back to those simple, direct, God-impelling teachings of the great Master. They are finding salvation in his teachings and his example, where they never could find it in various phases of the traditional teachings about him. It is interesting to realize, and it seems almost strange that this new finding in psychology, and that this new and vital content in Christianity, have come about at almost identically the same time. Yet it is not strange, for the one but serves to demonstrate in a concrete and understandable manner the fundamental and essential principles of the other. Many of the Master's teachings of the inner life, teachings of the kingdom, given so far ahead of his time that the people in general, and in many instances even his disciples, were incapable of fully comprehending and understanding them, are now being confirmed and further elucidated by clearly defined laws of psychology. Speculation and belief are giving way to a greater knowledge of law. The supernatural recedes into the background as we delve deeper into the supernormal. The unusual loses its miraculous element as we gain knowledge of the law whereby the thing is done. We are realizing that no miracle has ever been performed in the world's history that was not through the understanding and the use of law. Jesus did unusual things, but he did them because of his unusual understanding of the law through which they could be done. He would not have us believe otherwise. To do so would be a distinct contradiction of the whole tenor of his teachings and his injunctions. "Ye shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free," was his own admonition. It was the great and passionate longing of his master heart that the people to whom he came, grasped the interior meanings of his teachings. How many times he felt the necessity of rebuking even his disciples for dragging his teachings down through their material interpretations. As some of the very truths that he taught are now corroborated and more fully understood, and in some cases amplified by well-established laws of psychology, mystery recedes into the background. We are reconstructing a more natural, a more sane, a more common-sense portrait of the Master. "It is the Spirit that quickeneth," said he, "the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life." Shall we recall again in this connection, "I am come that ye might have life and that ye might have it more abundantly"? When, therefore, we take him at his word, and listen intently to his words, and not so much to the words of others about him, when we place our emphasis upon the fundamental spiritual truths that he revealed and that he pleaded so earnestly to be taken in the simple, direct way in which he taught them, we are finding that the religion of the Christ means a clearer and healthier understanding of life and its problems through a greater knowledge of the elemental forces and laws of life. Ignorance enchains and enslaves. Truth, which is but another way of saying a clear and definite knowledge of law, the elemental laws of soul, of mind, and body, and of the universe about us, brings freedom. Jesus revealed essentially a spiritual philosophy of life. His whole revelation pertained to the essential divinity of the human soul and the great gains that would follow the realization of this fact. His whole teaching revolved continually around his own expression, used again and again, the kingdom of God, or the kingdom of heaven, and which he so distinctly stated was an inner state or consciousness or realization. Something not to be found outside of oneself but to be found only within. We make a great error to regard man as merely a duality, mind and body. Man is a trinity. Soul, mind, and body, each with its own functions, and it is the right coordinating of these that makes the truly efficient and eventually the perfect life. Anything less is always one-sided and we may say, continually out of gear. It is essential to a correct understanding and therefore for any adequate use of the potential powers and forces of the inner life, to realize this. It is the physical body that relates us to the physical universe about us, that in which we find ourselves in this present form of existence. But the body, wondrous as it is in its functions and its mechanism, is not the life. It has no life and no power in itself. It is of the earth. Earthy. Every particle of it has come from the earth through the food we eat in combination with the air we breathe and the water we drink, and every part of it in time will go back to the earth. It is the house we inhabit while here. We can make it a hovel or a mansion, we can make it even a pigsty or a temple, according as the soul, the real self, chooses to function through it. We should make it servant, but through ignorance of the real powers within, we can permit it to become master. "Know ye not," said the great apostle to the Gentiles, "that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own. The soul is the self, the soul made in the image of eternal divine life, which, as Jesus said, is spirit." The essential reality of the soul is spirit. Spirit, being, is one and indivisible, manifesting itself, however, in individual forms in existence. Divine being and the human soul are therefore in essence the same in quality. Their difference, which, however, is very great, though less in some cases than in others, is a difference in degree. Divine being is the cosmic force, the essential essence, the life therefore of all there is in existence. The soul is individual personal existence. The soul while in this form of existence manifests, functions through the channel of a material body. It is the mind that relates the two. It is through the medium of the mind that the two must be coordinated. The soul, the self, while in this form of existence, must have a body through which to function. The body, on the other hand, to reach and to maintain its highest state, must be continually infused with the life force of the soul. The life force of the soul is spirit. If spirit, then essentially one with infinite divine spirit, for spirit, being, is one. The embodied soul finds itself the tenant of a material body in a material universe, and according to a plan as yet, at least, beyond our human understanding, whatever may be our thoughts, our theories regarding it. The whole order of life as we see it, all the world of nature about us, and we must believe the order of human life, is a gradual evolving from the lower to the higher, from the cruder to the finer. The purpose of life is unquestionably unfoldment, growth, advancement, likewise the evolving from the lower and the coarser to the higher and the finer. The higher insights and powers of the soul, always potential within, become of value only as they are realized and used. Evolution implies always involution. The substance of all we shall ever attain or be, is within us now, waiting for realization and thereby expression. The soul carries its own keys to all wisdom and to all valuable and usable power. It was that highly illumined seer, Emanuel Swedenborg, who said, "Every created thing is in itself inanimate and dead, but it is animated and caused to live by this, that the divine is in it and that it exists in and from the divine." Again, the universal end of creation is that there should be an external union of the Creator with the created universe, and this would not be possible unless there were beings in whom His divine might be present as if in itself, thus in whom it might dwell and abide. To be His abode, they must receive His love and wisdom by a power which seems to be their own, thus, must lift themselves up to the Creator as if by their own power, and unite themselves with Him. Without this mutual action no union would be possible. And again, everyone who duly considers the matter may know that the body does not think, because it is material, but the soul, because it is spiritual. All the rational life, therefore, which appears in the body belongs to the spirit, for the matter of the body is annexed, and, as it were, joined to the spirit, in order that the latter may live and perform uses in the natural world. Since everything which lives in the body, and acts and feels by virtue of that life, belongs to the spirit alone, it follows that the spirit is the real man, or, what comes to the same thing, man himself is a spirit, in a form similar to that of his body. Spirit being the real man, it follows that the great, central fact of all experience, of all human life, is the coming into a conscious, vital realization of our source, of our real being, in other words, of our essential oneness with the spirit of infinite life and power, the source of all life and all power. We need not look for outside help when we have within us waiting to be realized, and thereby actualized, this divine birthright. Browning was prophet as well as poet when in Paracelsus he said, "Truth is within ourselves, it takes no rise from outward things, whate'er you may believe. There is an inmost center in us all, where truth abides in fullness, and around wall upon wall, the gross flesh hems it in, this perfect, clear perception, which is truth. A baffling and perverting carnal mesh binds it, and makes all error, and, to know rather consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape, than in effecting entry for a light supposed to be without." How strangely similar in meaning it seems to that saying of an earlier prophet, Isaiah, "And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way, walk ye in it, when ye turn to the right hand and when ye turn to the left." All great educators are men of great vision. It was Dr. Hiram Corson who said, "It is what man draws up from his sub-self which is of prime importance in his true education, not what is put into him. It is the occasional uprising of our sub-selves that causes us, at times, to feel that we are greater than we know." A new psychology, spiritual science, a more common-sense interpretation of the great revelation of the Christ of Nazareth, all combine to enable us to make this occasional uprising our natural and normal state. No man has probably influenced the educational thought and practice of the entire world more than Friedrich Froebel. In that great book of his, The Education of Man, he bases his entire system upon the following, which constitutes the opening of its first chapter: "In all things there lives and reigns an eternal law." This all-controlling law is necessarily based on an all-pervading, energetic, living, self-conscious, and hence eternal, unity. This unity is God. All things have come from the divine unity, from God, and have their origin in the divine unity, in God alone. God is the sole source of all things. All things live and have their being in and through the divine unity, in and through God. All things are only through the divine effluence that lives in them. The divine effluence that lives in each thing is the essence of each thing. It is the destiny and life work of all things to unfold their essence, hence their divine being, and, therefore, the divine unity itself, to reveal God in their external and transient being. It is the special destiny and life work of man, as an intelligent and rational being, to become fully, vividly, conscious of this essence of the divine effluence in him, and therefore of God. The precept for life in general and for everyone is, exhibit only thy spiritual, thy life, in the external, and by means of the external in thy actions, and observe the requirements of thy inner being and its nature. Here is not only an undying basis for all real education, but also the basis of all true religion, as well as the basis of all ideal philosophy. Yes, there could be no evolution, unless the essence of all to be evolved, unfolded, were already involved in the human soul. To follow the higher leadings of the soul, which is so constituted that it is the inlet, and as a consequence the outlet of divine spirit, creative energy, the real source of all wisdom and power, to project its leadings into every phase of material activity and endeavor, constitutes